is Guaranteed Industries. So, Rudy, let me start with what's going on here. We just heard on the news, Chrystia Freeland announcing she is walking away from the Mark Carney government, just like she did from Justin Trudeau's government. What sort of a situation does this create?
Yes, Chrystia Freeland is resigning for the second time, this time as the transport minister. And what we are hearing is that she will be the special envoy for Ukraine. Now, what we don't know if she's going to stay as an MP and for how long, and if it opens the door for another by-election in her riding in Toronto. That can be an opportunity maybe in a few weeks or a few months for Mark Carney, Prime Minister Mark Carney, to bring maybe somebody who he wants to appoint to cabinet, for example. So this is the situation for the moment. Yes, she's leaving cabinet, and yes, she's going to be part of Ukraine reconstruction, but it can maybe be an opportunity in a few weeks or a few months for a new cabinet minister that will be from the choosing of Mark Carney.
Well, so let me ask, on the surface, Rudy, is this good news or bad news for Mark Carney, or not much of either?
I think it's a good news. It can maybe, as you know, Chrystia Freeland comes with a lot of baggage, as you know, from as a finance minister who spent a lot of money, and now he can also appoint whoever he wants. And it's been rumors. It's been for months that we know that, for example, there's no ambassador in Germany, there's no ambassador in Brussels. There's going to be maybe a replacement of Ralph Goddard in London and perhaps Stéphane Dion in Paris. So there's opening for ambassadorship, and we're hearing that it's for months now that maybe Chrystia Freeland was going to be appointed ambassador. Okay. She's not. It's going to be Ukraine. But also, don't forget, there's two former ministers, Bill Blair, who used to be minister also, maybe will go for an ambassadorship. Wilkinson, who's always also been a minister under Justin Trudeau. There's rumors that maybe he will also be an ambassadorship. So that may be some shuffle maybe in the weeks or months ahead.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the first day yesterday, House of Commons reconvening. Anything there that you thought, okay, this is going to be a sign of what's to come?
The budget. Uh-huh. I mean, that's something that the Conservatives are hammering. The rumors are that maybe we're looking at $100 billion deficit. Don't forget that Chrystia Freeland resigned because she didn't want to present a fiscal update in December that was $62 billion, and now we're hearing possibly $100 billion deficit. So that's going to be something very difficult for the Carney government. Yes, they are going to try to say that they're investing and they're not spending, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a deficit. So this is what the Conservatives have been hammering. And we're going to see, it was the first time that it was a face-off between Pierre Poilievre as leader of the opposition and Prime Minister Carney as Prime Minister. Now today, for example, Prime Minister Carney wasn't in the House of Commons. Tomorrow or Thursday, he's going to Mexico. So it's going to be interesting to see how many times he's going to be in the House of Commons and if he's going to be there to be against Pierre Poilievre, or he's going to delegate ministers, for example, to be in his place in the House of Commons.
Rudy, let me ask you, are you making it seem like you think he's not going to be there? In other words, avoid that confrontation if he can at all costs?
Yes, I do think so. As you know, Prime Minister Carney is not an experienced politician. You can see it yesterday in his answers. He takes a lot of time. Don't forget that you have to respect the 35 seconds to answer a question. He missed a few questions because he wasn't quick on his feet. I don't believe that he's going to spend a lot of time, for example, in question period, because I don't think it's his forte. And at the same time, if he does, he's giving the opportunity for Pierre Poilievre to score some points. So I don't think he's going to attend. He's going to do just the minimum in terms of attendance. But we'll see. At least this week, he's only going to be there once.
Okay, I want to ask you just one thing really quickly. I asked James Meny, another one of our analysts earlier on, if you had to guess, we're dealing with a minority government here. Is this a year and a half? Is this 2 years? What's your best guess right now? I know it's only the first day back, but from what you're seeing, what you're hearing.
What is very going to be important is not what's going to happen in the question period or even, for example, in the budget, what's going to happen in parliamentary committee, because as you know, the NDP is not a recognized party anymore. So it's only the Bloc Québécois and the Conservative, meaning that every time that the Carney government wants to introduce a bill or a legislation, they have to go in parliamentary committee and get the support of at least one party, and they cannot count on the NDP in parliamentary committee. So they'll need to do some trade-off with either the Bloc Québécois and the Conservative. And right now, the Bloc Québécois is not playing ball, for example, on the budget. The Conservative are not playing ball on the budget. So I do believe that perhaps the NDP is going to save them on the budget, But when it comes to their legislative agenda, it's going to be very difficult for the Carney government to put forward some bills that are not going to be amended, for example, from the Bloc or the Conservatives. So to answer your question, I do believe that he's safe until Christmas, but next year it's going to be very difficult for him.
That's not very far away. All right, let's talk about provincial politics. We have a new Palace data poll. 65%, these are PQ voters now. But when it comes to, the referendum and that question, those numbers really haven't changed very much, right? We're still in that sort of sweet spot at around 35%. What do you make of this?
Yes, it's still going to be very difficult for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. Yes, he's ahead in the polls. But when you look at sovereignty and if people want a referendum, and it's very clear, it's 65% against a referendum and only 32% for a referendum, meaning that people are willing to vote for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and maybe perhaps a majority government, but they don't want a referendum in the first term of the PQ government. So I do believe that it's going to be difficult for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon because his whole momentum is about also referendum, and for the moment the polls are saying no.
I want to make sure I have the number right. The 65% who are saying no to the referendum,
yes,
right?
Yes.
That's the poll.
65.
Those are not necessarily PQ voters. Those are just voters in general?
No, just voters in general. And yes, it's only 32%. And as you know, the PQ right now is at 35%. So there's 3% more people that are willing to vote for him, but only 32% are willing for a referendum.
So how do you square that circle if you're the leader of the PQ, which, of course, up until now and always, you've had to, the referendum to lean on? That's your main sort of platform position. But now, you could never really get it done. Polls keep showing the same thing over and over again. What does he do?
It's very difficult because the table has changed in a way, because now before it used to be older people who were willing, for example, to believe in a country, and the youth who were maybe more on the fence, but now it changed a little bit. The youth, when you see some polls, the youth are more willing to give a chance for a referendum, but now it's the older people who are not, even if perhaps those people voted for yes in 1995, those voters now are saying no. So it's very difficult. At the same time, he needs to build on youth. And a lot of people don't remember all those fights about 1995. So he needs to do a lot of education on the benefit of a referendum, especially in a time where the economic is a priority.
What about Pablo Rodriguez? What did we hear from him today?
It's not very good. I mean, there's a lot of columnists and analysts who are saying, look, we hear a little bit about Pablo Rodriguez, but when you look at the whole picture this summer, he hasn't been very present. Even on some files, he's not scoring a lot of points in terms of attacking Francois Legault, and it begs the question that maybe he doesn't have have much to say on a lot of topics in Quebec because he's not scoring some points. We don't see him making the news. So some people are saying that he still has a learning curve in terms of him coming from Ottawa and digesting all the issues in Quebec and just being in the front line. He's supposed to be the leader of the official opposition. He needs to be in the news. And for the moment, we see more, for example, Marois Risky and others, MNAs from the Liberal Party than their leader.
Does this change the timetable, Rudy, for Francois Legault in terms of either A, calling an early election, stepping down, any of that?
I don't believe that he's going to call an early election. I don't believe that. He needs to kind of change the trend right now. He needs to have a strong legislative agenda in terms of delivering, and I don't believe that for the moment there's going to be he's going to call an election soon. For the moment, he needs to deliver a little bit like Mark Carney before Christmas. He needs to change the trend.
We'll leave it at that. Rudy, thank you so much. Appreciate it.